The piano trembled beneath my fingers, low-E humming like distant thunder. I felt the floor vibrate when Big Oscar dropped his boots near the bar. I smelled gun oil before I heard the click of a hammer being checked. Close, too close. Sweat slid down my spine under the waistcoat. Payday night meant the saloon was swollen with minors, drunks, and loose tempers. My job? Keep playing. Don't ask questions. But the two voices behind me didn't care if I could see. They assumed I was just a pair of ears wrapped in blind flesh. "Midnight," one muttered, voice tight with danger. "He opens the vault alone." I kept the waltz going, but my heartbeat stuttered. They were planning to hit the bank. And the bastard they were about to kill? My younger brother, Sheriff Ethan Ward. We hadn't spoken in 4 years. Not since the hanging. But tonight I had to find him before the town woke up broke or bleeding. I slipped out the back like smoke, the hinges groaning just enough to turn my stomach. My boots hit uneven planks, the back alley's breath thick with spilled beer and urine. I tapped my cane forward, crate's glass, a dead rat. I'd walked these streets every night for years, memorizing the tilt of every boardwalk, the sway of every porch chain. But tonight, everything felt sharper. The wind carried the sour burn of cheap tobacco and fresh sweat. Someone watching, maybe. I took a hard left toward the jailhouse. Payday meant the main drag was alive with drunken hollers and pistols fired into the sky. I didn't have long. Midnight. They said midnight. I had to reach Ethan before the bank vault door turned him into a ghost. Every step rattled up my spine. Every noise felt like it had teeth. Main Street roared like a busted boiler, boots stomping, coins clinking, someone sobbing inside a harmonica tune. I leaned against a post, catching my breath, cane tapping to count my steps. 7 storefronts from here to the jail. I smelled horses, whiskey, burned bread, and then the tang of blood. Old blood. My boot slipped where someone had bled hours earlier. No time to think on it. I counted again. 5 storefronts. 4. Fine. A man bumped me hard. "Watch it, blindy," he slurred. I swallowed my pride and kept moving. Somewhere to my left, a revolver spun in a drunk's hand. Somewhere to my right, a door slammed. But I felt the jailhouse near. Its porch always creaked twice. Front foot, back heel. I heard them. 1, 2, and then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Well, be damned, Caleb. It was Ethan, my brother, and I only had seconds to tell him everything. He sounded older, harder. Ethan stepped onto the porch and stopped a breath away. I felt his shadow cross my boots. "What are you doing here, Caleb?" he asked, like I'd crawled out of the ground. My mouth was dry. "They're hitting the bank at midnight," I said. 2 men, one sounded like that drifter from Clovis, said you'd be alone with the vault. Silence stretched. The lantern above us flickered in the wind. "You expect me to trust you now?" he said. I couldn't blame him. After what I'd done, after what I didn't stop, he had every right. But I stepped closer. "You can hate me tomorrow," I said. "Right now, you need a shotgun and a plan." Something in him shifted. I could hear it in the breath he held too long. Then the hinges creaked as he opened the door and said, "Get inside." The jailhouse smelled like ink, coffee, and worn leather. Familiar, painful scents. I sat by the desk, fingertips brushing the wood, counting shell clicks as Ethan loaded his shotgun. "You sure about what you heard?" he asked, voice sharp. "Every word," I said. I could still feel the tremor in the floor when the man leaned in behind me. could still smell the tobacco sticking to his breath. Ethan paced. I heard the heel scrape, the holster slap. He wasn't scared. He was calculating. You remember the safe room under the apothecary? He asked. I nodded. We used it as boys to hide from Pa. We'll move the gold there. Set a trap. I didn't say anything. But for the first time in years, I felt like we were brothers again. Not by blood, but by battle. The apothecary's cellar was colder than I remembered. Musty, with chalk and rat piss. I crouched behind crates of laudanum, revolver in my lap, counting the seconds between Ethan's boots overhead and the wind scraping the windows. Midnight crept close. I held my breath, straining for sounds no one else would notice. The creak of the back door, the hesitant footfall of someone trying not to be heard. 2 sets, one heavier, dragging a spur. I mouthed the count. Wanda, Dendau, Gandelai. The candle flickered. I could hear their breath, short and dry. Then, silence. Too quiet. My fingers curled tighter around the revolver. Somewhere upstairs, Ethan shouted. What the hell do you think you're doing? It was starting. The trap was sprung. I stood, heart thrashing, and waited for hell to kick the door in. Gunfire cracked above like a whip on raw skin. I ducked instinctively, the ceiling spitting dust into my hair. The Gatlin boy was yelling, something about a setup, followed by the deep boom of Ethan's shotgun. The floor vibrated with every shot, every boot slam, like the piano back at the saloon had come alive with death. I crouched lower, the candles sputtering beside me. I couldn't see them, but I could feel it all. The clatter of boots, the scream of wood splitting, the hollow silence between shots. The fight was happening upstairs, but any moment it could spill down here. I ran my fingers along the revolver's cylinder, counting chambers. 5 left. 1 for each sin I still owed this town. And I'd spend them all if Ethan didn't make it out alive. The cellar door slammed open with a wooden shriek, and boots pounded down the steps. I aimed by instinct, by breath, by echo. The first shot came from him, grazed the wall to my left. I waited for the pause, the inhale, and fired. His grunt told me I'd hit shoulder or worse. He tumbled down the last steps, gun clattering beside him. My pulse roared in my ears, louder than the gunfire above. I rose slowly, cane forgotten, revolver steady. His moans faded. I stepped around him, sweeping the air with my free hand. No more footsteps. No more enemies. Just the iron smell of blood and the hiss of a dying candle. The cellar was ours again. I didn't smile. There was no time. I had to reach Ethan. I emerged into a hell made of wood and smoke. The apothecary was gutted, glass crunched under my boots, and I smelled fire. A shelf collapsed nearby, making me flinch. Then I heard it, a groan, familiar, human. Ethan, I called out. No answer. I followed the sound, hand dragging across shattered counters, sidestepping flame. My foot hit something soft. A leg? Ethan? He coughed. Still here, barely. I knelt beside him, his blood warm under my hand. They gone? He rasped. One dead downstairs, I said. Rest ran. He laughed, bitter and broken. You always show up right before everything explodes. I didn't argue. I just squeezed his arm and whispered, Let's get you out of here, little brother. We staggered through the street like shadows in a fading dream, Ethan's arm heavy across my shoulder, his boots dragging blood into the dust. The town was quiet now. Payday rage had burned itself out. A few windows cracked open, folks peeking at the damage with scared eyes and fuller pockets. I felt eyes on us. Pity maybe, or fear. Didn't matter. Each step pulled a groan from Ethan, and my legs screamed beneath the weight of him. I listened for danger, for the cough of a colt, the shift of gravel, but the world was still. Only our breath, and the creak of the boardwalk under ruined boots. We were alive, for now, but I knew there'd be questions. There always were after blood hit daylight. Back in Ethan's cabin, I found the bottle by memory, third shelf, left of the stove. My hands trembled as I poured, sloshing half the shot across the table. Ethan hissed from the cot, the wound soaking through gauze. "It was Tom Gatlin," he muttered. "I thought he'd skipped town." I sat beside him, passing the drink. He hadn't, just changed targets. Silence stretched between us like old rope. Finally, he asked, "Why'd you come?" I didn't answer at first. Just listened to the pop of the lantern, the wind against the shutters, the brittle sound of two men out of excuses. "Because you're my brother," I said, "and I already lost one too many." He didn't say anything, but he didn't turn away either. We sat there till the sun pushed its fingers under the door. Didn't talk, didn't move. Just two ghosts in a room that smelled like sweat, whiskey, and old regret. Ethan finally spoke. "You sticking around this time?" I let the question hang. My gut said, "Run." My heart said, "Stay." I didn't owe the town anything, but I owed him everything. "Depends if you're still wearing that badge in the morning," I said. He chuckled, dry and broken. "Might not be up to me." I traced the wood grain of the table. Familiar, splintered, real. I'd been gone a long time. Maybe too long. But something about that night, about surviving it together, cut through the fog. Maybe this place still had music in it, even if the piano stayed quiet. I returned to the saloon alone, boots soft on the warped floorboards. The air reeked of smoke and spilled bourbon, and my cane tapped a glass shard that crackled underfoot. I found the piano by instinct, left corner near the old portrait of Judge Bell. My fingers brushed its side. The varnish had bubbled, keys warped by heat. Someone had fired a shot into it, left a hole where Middle C used to be. I rested my hand there, where the music had bled out. Miners still snored upstairs. A bottle rolled on the floor. I stood in silence, letting the weight of last night settle into my spine. I hadn't saved the town, but I'd warned it. Sometimes that's the only miracle you get. The bank stood like a beaten boxer, doors scarred, windows boarded, the vault untouched. I ran my hand along the grain, feeling the fresh chips in the wood where bullets chewed through the frame. A broom scraped the boardwalk behind me. The banker muttered, "Thanks I didn't answer." I hadn't done it for him. Behind me, someone was nailing up a wanted poster, probably Tom Gatlin's face, dead-eyed and still breathing somewhere. I listened to the town shuffle through its bruises, boots sweeping rubble, murmurs rising like dust. The scent of fresh bread mingled with the smoke. Life was clawing its way back, as it always did. But for the first time, I stood in the middle of it and didn't feel like a ghost. I'd earned a place here, even if no one saw it but me. That night, I sat on the saloon porch, listening to the world breathe again. The piano was gone, burned, but I could still hear its echo in my bones. A kid laughed down the street. A woman sang out of tune. Someone played harmonica badly enough to make me grin. Behind me, nailed to the wall, Ethan's badge hung crooked from a bent nail. He said he'd be back when he could ride straight. Till then, the town watched me like I might hold the fuse or cut the wire. I didn't mind. I knew what I was now. Not a hero. Not a brother forgiven. Just a man who listened. And sometimes that's the one who saves you. I walked down Main Street like I belonged, cane ticking softly against the hard-packed dirt. The town watched, quiet, unsure. I could feel their eyes more than see them, could smell their doubt, their gratitude, their memory of how close we came to ruin. Someone lit a cigar. A chair creaked. I nodded once, slow and even, not asking for trust, just showing them I hadn't left. The air was cooler now, thick with the promise of rain. Payday was over, but the scars would linger. I didn't need sight to see them. I carried a few myself. But I didn't stagger. I didn't hide. I walked like a man who'd paid his dues and was ready for the next note, whatever key it came in. The piano sat like a relic of something holy and broken. I found it by touch. Splinters, warped wood, keys stuck like bitten teeth. I sat down anyway. My fingers hovered, then played. Not a song. Not really. Just notes. Slow, off-key, full of ghosts. A boy in the back watched me, silent. I could feel his breath hold with every chord. The saloon didn't speak, didn't drink, just listened. When I finished, the last note hung like dust in the light. The boy whispered, "Teach me that one day." I nodded, eyes closed. When you're ready to hear things people ain't saying. He didn't understand, but he would, one day. The piano may have died, but music, like truth, always finds its way back. At dawn, I sat on the edge of town where the road fades into scrub. Just me, the wind, and the sound of distant thunder. No storm, just stagecoach wheels maybe, or ghosts on the move. My cane lay across my lap. The revolver stayed in its holster. I wasn't running, wasn't hiding. I'd heard something in this town, something worth staying for. Not redemption, not family, just the echo of who I used to be, and the man I might still become. I tilted my face to the rising sun. Couldn't see it, but I could feel it. Warm, real, alive.